Hello, I was listening to David Cameron this morning on BBC Breakfast Time and doing a bit of drawing at the same time. I'll play you what he said because it has an impact, I think, and he is quite firm about Rishi Sunak's spad, who bet on his own, on the date of the election, insider trading, all that sort of nonsense. And, as he points out, the man is on the ballot now, and they're not going to change that. But at the same time, there are other organizations looking into his activities, and was he trying to make a quick buck out of insider knowledge? Did he actually know something? Apparently, according to the Labour Party, Rishi Sunak had made his decision a week earlier, and he was just being a bit tremulous about whether or not he should go for it. When he did go for it, of course, that inner group already knew because they were his chums. He hadn't consulted more widely through the party. It's the most bizarre set of stories. And those inner chums clearly are not trustworthy. And that's the problem. The problem is Rishi Sunak relies on people who are simply unreliable. And we're supposed to rely on Rishi Sunak. It doesn't work. And when you hear someone like David Cameron, you may not like the Conservatives, you may not like David Cameron, but you cannot fail but to notice the level of authority and statesmanship that he displays almost with every moment. I don't know whether this is because he's improved with time. A lot of statesmen do improve after getting out of 10 Downing Street and 11 Downing Street. I can think particularly of Dennis Healey, who became really a charming and affable individual out of power. And I don't think Edward Heath didn't really get out of power. He remained an MP until his dying day and bickered on the sidelines about Mrs. Thatcher. So that doesn't count. Tony Blair, of course, has gone off and done his own things. But Gordon Brown, how brilliant Gordon Brown has become since the general election and his Duffield bigoted woman interaction. How impressive he has become since then, out of power. And he comes across as the statesman, the older statesman. Even Mrs. May acquired dignity after leaving office, particularly when she was reprimanding her successor, Boris Johnson. But listen to what Cameron has got to say, and I will entertain. I will put up my drawing at the same time.
That you may well remember from when you were Prime Minister. This is March of 2013. And you said, my party has a clear aspiration to reduce net migration to just tens of thousands over the coming years. And I'm just for point of reference, net migration figure most recently is thought to be 685,000. So your comments in 2013 over the coming years compared with where we are now, why should people trust you on immigration?
Well, I think there are a few things that have happened that have fundamentally changed the situation. One is, quite rightly, we've welcomed over 250,000 Ukrainians into our homes. We've also welcomed over 150,000 Hong Kong Chinese. Again, I think correctly, I think the right decision was made there. But crucially, COVID, the after effects of COVID, seemed to reduce our available workforce by almost 1 million people. And business can't suddenly change its practices so quickly. And so we've seen a big increase in net migration as businesses brought those people in from overseas. So the crucial question, I think, at this election is who is going to come up with that combination of immigration control, but also welfare reform to get British people of working age back to work. And then crucially, who's going to have the training program and the education program to make sure that people can fulfill the jobs that are being created.
I dare say some people might say, Mr. Cameron...
Just let me finish this point.
Okay.
What you've heard from Rishi is, yes, we're going to deliver that welfare reform with back-to-work tests and all of that, and we're going to create 100,000 new apprentices, as well as continuing to invest in our education system. So I think we've got the three-sided answer of immigration, welfare and education. And I'm not hearing that from the Labour Party.
I dare say some people would ask a more fundamental question, which is why the Conservative Party doesn't do what they say they're going to do. I've quoted you the figures on immigration, your own words as well. And then we look at tax, and you claim to be the party that wants to lower tax. As you well know, the tax burden now is higher than it has been for, 74 years?
Yeah, but I think that two massive things happened in the last Parliament, and that is COVID, which was a fundamental shock to our economy, and the Ukraine war, which spiked inflation up to 11%. And, clearly this didn't just happen to Britain. This happened all over Europe, all over the world. We've been recovering from those two shocks. And I would say the real test for Rishi Sunak coming in as Prime Minister is how are you going to get the British economy back to growth and back onto an even keel after those events. And he's passed that test. We went from 11% inflation to 2% inflation, and our economy now growing faster than France, Germany, Italy or America are the most recent figures. That was the key test. And I think a lot of the election campaign, sometimes commentators forget that, COVID and Ukraine were two huge icebergs that hit the British ship of state and had a massive impact on it.
I just need one last question, if I may, Mr. Cameron. This is about Craig Williams. New name to a lot of people, who is the Prime Minister's parliamentary private secretary, understood to have placed a bet with Ladbrokes on the date of the general election. What is his situation as we stand this morning?
Well, his situation, having made this clearly very foolish decision, is that he's being investigated by the Gambling Commission, and they have considerable powers in terms of what the consequences could be. And I think we have to let that investigation take place. And so I can't really comment any further on it.
Are you happy with him standing as a candidate for the Conservative Party?
Yes, all the nominations are in and candidates are standing, and I don't think we can change that. In fact, it's very important that we don't make alterations after these things have been set. But obviously he's going to be investigated, and we'll have to face the consequences of that investigation.
Foreign Secretary, thank you very much for your time this morning, Lord Cameron.